A year ago, I almost didn't go on my first horse riding tour, but that journey inspired a series of miniature paintings. Now, a year later, I'm still painting those memories. It was something I had dreamed about for a very long time, but it continued to stay in the category of maybe someday, mostly because there always seemed to be a reason not to go. There were too many fears. At first, of course, the money. Horse trips are quite expensive, and they were for me, including that year, as I had recently quit my full-time job and had no idea what would happen next or how stable my income would be. And I kept thinking, maybe I should save the money for later, maybe this isn't the right time. But, it never really feels like the right time for anything. I mean, even with the stable income, there's been COVID and then the war. It seems like it's only getting worse with time. Therefore, traveling from Ukraine became much more complicated after the war started. Since planes don't fly from here anymore, getting to another country takes almost 2 full days of trains, border crossing, and then airport transfers. So this wasn't just a simple vacation where I could leave for a weekend and come back refreshed. Every abroad trip now requires a lot of time, planning, and courage. And of course, there's not only a technical side. I was really afraid of talking to foreigners during war times. I didn't understand how much to share about the war realities. I didn't want to make everyone uncomfortable with heavy conversations, but pretending everything's normal felt strange and dishonest. It's a very odd emotional space to be in, traveling while there's missile and drone attacks almost every day in my hometown, which I've left forcefully and seems like forever. And now, after this trip, I'm sure there's no right way to handle conversations with people from peaceful regions. It becomes confusing and unsettling every time as the war is itself nowadays. While one part of your life is filled with anxiety, air raid alerts, everyday life and land losses, another part of you is trying to experience beauty and joy as long as possible. I also felt deeply insecure about my writing and language skills. I'm a quite introverted person, and before the trip I had all the classic anxious thoughts. What if people don't like me? What if I do something wrong? What if everyone else is more experienced than me? I almost didn't go because of all those fears combined. But at some point, some of the problems got their solutions. Quitting my job actually gave me enough time to travel, and another Ukrainian girl joined the tour, which made me feel a little less alone. Other things were still uncertain, but I was tired of waiting for a perfect moment. As I was also preparing to create a family, I thought if I kept waiting, I could never go at all. Having even less time with child in tow and finding new reasons to stay every time, so I decided to make it exactly as I was. And I'm really grateful that I did, because this trip became one of the most memorable experiences I've ever had. Not because it was perfect, but because it reminded me that overthinking and trying to control everything stops you from actually living your life. I wanted to somehow capture this experience and share my story. Therefore, I decided to create a set of mini paintings with gorgeous horses and breathtaking landscapes of the key moments from the trip. This tour was held on the island of Sardinia in Italy. My trip started with an additional free day, during which I decided to find a beach to swim at and have a plein air, and then in the evening to have a walk in the city. The nearest beach was in a 2-hour walk along the highway under the blazing sun, so I slathered on sunscreen from head to toe and set off on my adventure. I noticed this urban landscape on the outskirts of town. I felt fresh and excited as my adventures had just begun. During a long way along the road, I admired green landscapes with mountains, scattered cottages, and interesting industrial buildings. The lizard was the only friend I met during that exhausting walk. And then I finally made it to the first beach. Here are 2 paintings from that spot. This wooden walkway was broken, but that symbolized the trip well. It wasn't an easy path, but it was beautiful and absolutely worth it. Unfortunately, this beach was not intended for swimming, but there was a sign pointing in the direction where you could supposedly swim, so I took some photos and continued the rough path. It looked like this: dirt with tire tracks, mountains on one side and the sea on the other, a swarm of annoying bugs, and the relentless sun. And that tiny cloud, as if it were making fun of my strong desire to swim in the sea that day. But then I finally saw this. I couldn't have asked for a better reward. An incredible view, pure and quite refreshing water that you'd expect at the start of summer. After finally enjoying that long-awaited swim in the sea, I decided to climb those old stone steps and stroll through the garden of the abandoned house. When I reached the top, I discovered another stunning view, and this is the only painting I created on the spot. I'd like to have more plein airs, but there was no time later. We spent about 8 hours riding each day, so these few pictures are just a small glimpse of our memories we discovered from the horseback. Fields, mountains, the sea, all the new homes and different animals. I let go of all my worries and immersed in the joy of every moment spent riding through the island's wilderness. Those rides felt like a whole bouquet of emotions: excitement, peace, courage, and a little bit of madness. The horses were definitely enjoying the views too. This painting shows salt lakes with the gradient of delicate pink and clean blue water, accompanied by greenery and mountains. This one captures a moment of gazing deep in those mountains. And this is how the horses relaxed between rides. At the start, each rider was assigned a horse for the entire trip. I had a young mare named Venusia, this dark one. They were napping like this while we took panoramic photos and explored an old cave with a friendly bat living inside it. Another evening, I had some free time, so I took one more stroll through the city and enjoyed the charm of the setting sun. And this was the last view I caught from the bus window as we made our way back to the airport. The sad moment of realizing how quickly time flies. Every of these paintings captures a moment I wouldn't have experienced if I'd stayed at home. Most memories, including trips, fade very quickly, but some stay with us because they change something valuable in your life. If I said that the perfect moment is now, that wouldn't be true. But what is true is that the perfect moment never comes. There are only good enough moments that you really don't want to miss. I've learned that courage is to make the decision before confidence arrives, and then along the way you start noticing how the confidence naturally builds through the process. It's been a year since the trip and I decided to create and film one more painting for this video. I chose this photo with Venusia, and I show her a unique flower that one of the writers found along the way. If you've made it this far, I'd love to hear in the comments whether you've ever had a trip that changed something valuable for you. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the painting process and see you in the next video.